Before we go into transport today, I thought I'd show you this slide that I produced showing you different structures that have increased surface area in different groups of organisms. Here we have the gut of a flatworm. Here's the placenta in a human, showing lots of surface area for transfer of nutrients to the developing child. Here's the gill of a salamander, lots of surface area. There's the mesophyll of a leaf, the root hairs of a plant. This is where a seed gets its nutrients from, for an embryo, I should say, in a seed gets its nutrients from the rest of the seed. We have these kind of pillar-like structures. This is a flower that's got increased surface area for catching of pollen. Here's the antenna of a moth that can use the increased surface area to catch chemicals in the air and figure out which way a mate might be. And there's lung tissue. So just tons of examples of this. Now, if we think of exchange, we talked about gas exchange before, for example. Gas exchange ultimately takes place at the cellular level. Even when you have organelles big complex organ systems involved, it's still cells that are absorbing that oxygen and releasing the carbon dioxide. So in a flatworm, for example, towards the base of the animal cladogram, flatworms are flat, which increases their surface area to volume ratio, which means their bodies are only a few cells thick. This allows them to exchange gases with the world just through their skin. However, they still need to eat, and they have this cool mouth down here on this muscular pharynx. Their digestive system is a gastrovascular cavity, meaning it's just one opening. There's not a mouth and anus, it's just one opening, and it's branched throughout the entire body. You can see all this orange branching stuff here, and it's drawn here. It branches throughout the whole body, so when they digest food, it can easily make its way near every cell of the body and be distributed. So that's one way to distribute gases or food without having too much of a complicated set of organ systems. It's just to maximize surface area to volume ratios. What about somebody that's larger? How do we get things around? Well, that's what circulatory systems are for. And circulatory systems consist of a heart, a pump of some kind, fluid, and vessels. And that allows us to move things around inside of a more complex multicellular organism. So, for example, let's have a look here at the open circulatory system of an insect. So here we have a grasshopper. It has a cardiovascular system here. And in a lot of arthropods and most mollusks, the heart pumps a fluid known as hemolymph. Hemolymph is what we say instead of blood, because this is not blood. For two reasons. One, it's not contained completely in vessels, and two, it does not carry oxygen typically. So it moves nutrients around in the case of the insect. Remember, insects get their gas exchange through their trachea systems. They don't do it with their blood. So this heart pumps hemolymph, which goes through these vessels, and then it directly bathes the organs in these cavities called sinuses. So the hemolymph is kind of like sprayed into the body cavity. Then it drains and comes back to the heart and gets pumped again. So hemolymph directly surrounds the organ. So hemolymph is kind of like blood and interstitial fluid at the same time. Okay? So an important idea. Hopefully you grasp that. It's blood and interstitial fluid at the same time. Now, in a closed circulatory system, we have a heart and we have capillaries where the blood vessels narrow down, and that's where most exchange takes place. And we have these large vessels, and the blood never leaves the vessels. So the blood never directly touches the cells, essentially, of the body. And instead, we have interstitial fluid around the circulatory system. So materials are exchanged with cells to the interstitial fluid, and from the interstitial fluid to the blood. And that's what we see in organisms such as annelid worms, like this earthworm. We see this in vertebrates, as well as cephalopods, which is a group of mollusks like squid and octopus. They're predatory, they're much more active, and they have this more advanced circulatory system. So in this case, once again, the blood never leaves those vessels unless there's like internal bleeding or something, an injury. So in either type of circulatory system, cells are surrounded by fluid. In the case of a closed system, it's called interstitial fluid. In the case of an open system, it's that hemolymph, which is kind of fulfilling the role of both blood and interstitial fluid. So diffusion tends to go from vessel to interstitial fluid to cell, and from cell to interstitial fluid to vessel. It's the tissue fluid, or the fluid that surrounds the cells of the body, especially in a closed circulatory system. So now what I want to do is talk about closed systems entirely, and we're going to talk about different types of systems. So for this video, we will begin with the fish. A fish has single circulation. What that means is it's pumped one time as it makes its way around the body. So let's have a look at how this works. So here we have the heart, and it has two parts: an atrium, that's where blood comes into the heart, and a ventricle, and that's the muscular part that pumps blood out. Okay. We have arteries. Arteries lead away from the heart, and veins lead back to the heart. And both together can be called blood vessels. And red blood indicates blood that's got a lot of oxygen in it. Blue indicates blood that has little oxygen in it. So what happens? Well, blood comes into the atrium, then through this valve enters the ventricle. The heart contracts. Blood leaves the heart, flows up to the gill capillaries. So these are tiny little blood vessels that are all throughout the gills. This is where countercurrent exchange takes place. That oxygen poor blood picks up oxygen, releases carbon dioxide, and then it continues through the body, through the body to these capillaries, where body tissues pick up that oxygen. They take it in and they use it. And so this blood is really losing a lot of oomph and a lot of pressure by the time it gets back to the heart, where it's pressurized again and it goes. So this blood only gets pumped one time on its way through the body. It leaves the heart, that's the pump. It goes pump, there it goes here, through all these vessels, down, back through, up and around, and back to the heart again. And of course it's going to lose a lot of pressure, and it's going to slow down as it continues through the body with that one pump. So here's my cartoonish version of this. What are the problems of this? Well, this works fine if you're an ectotherm, if you don't have high metabolic needs. So the metabolic needs of an ectotherm, like the oxygen needs and things, are like 10 times less than that of an endotherm. So they're doing okay. But this wouldn't work well for an endotherm, because we need more rapid flow of oxygen and more efficient flow of oxygen and blood through the body under a more highly pressurized system. Okay. So what we're going to need to do for, and we're not even going to get to endotherms yet, but now we're going to have to talk about what do amphibians have, and what do reptiles and birds have and mammals have that are kind of new additions to this simple pump system that make them more efficient. And we'll pick up with those systems in the next video.